Hi girls, it's Miss Gaska. I'm back again with another video. This is for English 1 Semester 2, Week 1, Activity 1.14, Building an Argument. Our learning targets for this activity are to evaluate how reasons and evidence support a claim and to examine and select appropriate evidence to support a persuasive claim. Our learning strategies are going to be discussion groups, paraphrasing, visual prompt, and drafting. But as always, we're going to omit discussion groups because this is an online modality that doesn't facilitate such things. So, to begin, let's preview what we're going to do. It says, in this activity, you will read an informational text on the financial benefits of a college education and analyze the claim and supporting evidence. So, setting a purpose for reading. Like I always say, this is the most important part. So I'm going to highlight this because it's going to tell me what I need to be focusing on. Now, when you read, I always tell you that you should annotate, but sometimes I'm a little bit vague on what exactly you should annotate and how you should do it. So oftentimes you end up confused. Well, the setting for purpose for reading is where it tells us specifically what we should be looking for while we're reading, so that our annotations can be guided and focused on what's going to actually help us to pay attention to, which is pretty neat. So here are the two claims, or two things that it wants us to do while we read. One, as you read the informational text, identify the claim and highlight any supporting evidence. So we're going to be looking for the claim, and we're going to be looking for supporting evidence. Next, it says, circle unknown words and phrases. Try to determine the meaning of the words by using context clues, word parts, or a dictionary. So, we have those two things that we're going to be doing, highlighting and circling. Our informational text that we're going to read is called Education Still Pays. I'm going to read the first two paragraphs with you and demonstrate the highlighting and the circling techniques, but the rest is up to you. So, paragraph 1. As the cost of higher education continues to climb, prospective students and their families might wonder, does it still pay to get an education? According to the most recent data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, yes, it does. Well, I think that that's going to be the claim of the entire essay, is that it still pays to get an education. So I'm going to say yes, it does as part of the claim, but since that doesn't really tell me what, yes, it does what is it? I'm going to also highlight this question because that answer is referring directly to that question. So that already tells me what the claim of the article is going to be about. I have an idea about what it is I'm going to read. I'm going to write claim over here just so that you guys know. I'm going to draw a little arrow here and maybe another one of these little guys to go to this bottom part. All right, so I'm going to read the second paragraph and then you're on your own. So for decades, BLS data have shown that workers with more education have lower unemployment and higher earnings than workers with less education. And 2013 data are no exception. So that sounds like an important point. Workers with more education have lower unemployment and higher earnings than workers with less education. All right, so that sounds like it's going to be pretty important to me when I'm evaluating the claims. And we have our expert source here, which is BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So that's going to give us some sort of credibility to check on in this essay. So once you're done reading and annotating this essay, there's also a little chart that goes with it right here. We're going to go down to the questions. For the second read, it says to reread the informational text to answer these text-dependent questions. Write any additional questions you have about the text in your Reader Writer notebook. We don't have one of those, so any additional questions you have, you could just write in the My Notes section. So number 1, for key ideas and details, it's asking what claim does this article make? So you're going to want to go back to paragraph 1 and evaluate what claim that article is trying to make in order to be able to appropriately answer this question. For number 2, it says, how does this article support the claim? So what details, what evidence does it give that helps support and develop that claim. The third one is, what is the source of this information? And is the data cited reliable? Why or why not? So there are several parts of that question. You have to first find the source of that information. So you're going to want to look in the works cited part. When you're reading the article, look for where it says it gets its information from. Then you have to figure out if you think the data cited is reliable, why or why not. Some of the things that might help you decide if it's reliable is the quality of the source. So if it's like Jenny's mom down the street who wrote a blog online, that's a little bit less reliable. If it's an economic analyst from Harvard, obviously that's way more reliable. So consider the source and whether it's reliable, and then why or why not. So for number 4, it says, how does the presentation of data in a chart aid the reader? So how does that little chart they gave us help the reader understand what the argument is? That's what it's asking you there. Then, continuing 1.14, it has building an argument. Working from the text. In the presentation, why go, which is what we did for the last assignment, greater wealth was given as one of the benefits of a college education. How would your career choices and potential earnings be affected by having a college degree? Use information from the presentation, informational text, and chart to support your answer. So here you're writing a sentence or two about the benefits of a college degree and how your career choices and potential earnings would change as a result of having one, okay? Using evidence from those texts. Then it says, describe what makes a claim persuasive. Then choose one of the benefits given in the presentation, why go, other than greater wealth, and write a claim for that benefit. So any of the benefits besides greater wealth, you're going to choose it, and then you're going to write a claim as if you're presenting that benefit, okay? Then the last part says, explain how an author builds an argument. So you're going to write a paragraph or so explaining how the author builds the argument education still pays. So these are the things you're going to need to do when you're writing this. One is you're going to identify the claim made by the writer. Well, we already did that part together. You know that the claim is going to be something about why education still pays. The second one says, explain what reasons and supporting evidence the writer uses and how counterclaims are addressed. Meaning, you're going to explain the different things that they stated in order to support their argument, and you're going to say what they used for their counterclaim, and whether they acknowledged the counterclaim and left it alone, or whether they shot it down. So you're going to evaluate the effectiveness of those reasons, evidence, and refutations of counterclaims, meaning you're going to decide, is this evidence enough to convince somebody, or is it kind of weak? So then you're going to identify the direct address to the reader toward the end of the essay. That's going to be the part in the conclusion that asks the reader to do something. So in addition to the evidence that supports the writer's claim, evaluate whether or not the advice presented in that direct address helps the writer build a persuasive argument. So you're going to look at that direct address and decide, does this help my writer with their argument or not? And then last but not least, explain how the writer concludes the essay and how effective that ending is. So what they do to conclude it, and then if you think that their conclusion is strong, weak, or what. So that's the end of this week's assignments. If you have any questions about that, just let me know. I'd be glad to help you. Just reach out to me through text, phone, email, whatever source you want to use, and I'd be happy to assist you with that. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day.